Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the ways of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law do we meditate day and night. For we shall be like trees planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth our fruit in our season. Our leaves shall not wither, and whatsoever we do shall prosper. The Lord Jesus Christ is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh us to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth us beside the still waters. He restoreth our soul. He leadeth us in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though we walk through the valley of the shadows of death, we will fear no evil. For the Lord Jesus Christ is with us. His rod and his staff, they comfort us. The Lord Jesus Christ prepares a table before us in the presence of our enemies. The Lord Jesus Christ anointeth our head with oil, our cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow us all the days of our lives, and we will dwell in the house of the Lord Jesus Christ forever and ever. Amen. Welcome to the Colin Bell Show, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Precious Holy Spirit, we welcome you. We ask that the Lord Jesus Christ guide this program this morning. Be the host. Be everything this morning, Almighty God. We ask that you take full charge. Welcome, everybody. Share up the live. Share it up. Share it up. Remember this morning, a big morning, you know. This morning, the general will be here this morning. The general, leader of opposition, Mark Jefferson Golden, will be here at 9:30. Yeah, man. Budget presentation happened. We heard the Prime Minister. We heard the opposition spokesman and finance. We heard the opposition leader. We heard the Prime Minister. And we heard the finance minister again. 5 times. 5 speeches. There are those who are saying that the Prime Minister and the finance minister, they were fulsome and comprehensive. And it was the best. The best. Let me congratulate the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance and the most comprehensive. Yeah? The most comprehensive budget presentation they have ever done. That's what the labor rights are saying. Rubbish. But before we get there, there's a couple of housekeeping matters we want to deal with this morning. And Peter Gay Ferguson put out a press release. I want to take that one first. Peter Gay Ferguson.
From the People's National Party member unit.
This is Peter G. Ferguson, General Secretary of the PNP Youth Organization. I am calling on Minister of State in the Ministry of Social Security and Labour, Donovan Williams, to immediately step aside from his portfolio. The grave allegations against him threaten to further erode the confidence of young Jamaicans in our leader. The voice notes from his own councillor, Rosalie Hamilton of Raytown, details serious things: the destruction of properties by fire, diversion of funds from road contracts on Wildman Street, Sutton Street, and Allman Town, and the use of fraudulent documents to misappropriate resources meant for vulnerable citizens. Every day, young people watch allegations of corruption swirl around those in power, yet we see little consequence. This breeds deep apathy and convinces too many that our voices simply do not matter. The minister now faces a catalogue of troubling claims that have mounted over the years. With so many questions surrounding the distribution of already scarce social security resources, he cannot continue to hold public office while this cloud hangs over him. Stepping aside is not an admission of guilt. It is a necessary act of respect for the integrity of the office and for the young people who desperately need to believe that public service is not a shield for self-enrichment. I'm also calling on G2K and Young Jamaica to join us in defending transparency and accountability. Silencing moments such as these only deepens public distrust and widens the apathy among our generation. This is a time for collective leadership, not selective outrage. So until the air is cleared, the minister owes it to the youth of this country to step down. We demand accountability, not excuses.
Well, well. She said it. She said it, Mr. Williams. And it's not just that. It's not just that, Mr. Williams. It's much more than that. The shares that you're holding, the shares that you're holding in hiding for person A, by that alone, you should have stepped down long time. Long time you should have stepped down, brother. What you're doing is illegal and you're a lawyer. So we're calling on the Bar Association of Jamaica to also put Donovan Williams in front of the Bar Association, because the GLP administration, led by Andrew, has passed a bill in the parliament that no one should be holding shares for any anonymous person. And you, Mr. Williams, admitted that the shares are not yours. I don't know why people allow this to pass, so, you know. And I must ask the comrade leader about that this morning. Because it can't be that in the parliament, people are do so much garbage. Cannot be. A long time I don't hear this bridging here. Hold on. It can't be that so much garbage are going on in the parliament. What Donovan Williams is doing is illegal. Holding shares for somebody and the business office of Jamaica don't know about it. It is illegal. So it's not just the revelation of Central Kingston why we have Donovan Williams on the screen this morning. It's also about where near MedTech. I saw the name. It's also about that place too. Why we have Donovan Williams at the front of the line this morning. Donovan Williams, you need to step down from the ministerial position that you now hold. And I think you should even be in the parliament. You need to take a leave of absence from the parliament, because as a lawmaker, you cannot be breaking the law. And as a lawyer, you're a legal person. You are counsel. This is unbecoming. And you see, Jamaican people, that's why I have to beat you from within, because you don't accept too much rubbish. The things that you are accepting, Jamaicans, cannot be. Hey, tell her, don't make me get stammered this morning, Donovan Williams. You need to step down from your ministerial position. Prime Minister Andrew Holness need to take it from you. And this should have happened. You shouldn't run back. Because this came to light that you are holding shares. You're holding shares for somebody. This came to light before the election. Hiding. And the law was passed by your administration while I think you was in the parliament. Morning.
Morning, sir.
Yeah, Wagwan.
Yeah, I morning to the rest of your listeners, everybody in Jamaica.
Yeah.
I listen to what I have to say about the brother, the feather brother, because we come from Catbird Pen, so Catbird Pen now with them bar them grow.
Yeah.
But as I said to you,
To support critical restoration works in Westmoreland,
call out the Prime Minister on it. Because guess what? No, it come from the top. And I want to show you something. Right now, presently, you have a local war in the Middle East, and who orchestrate the war there? You remember in 2017 now the Prime Minister run go down, they go touch the wall then.
Go bow
Remember
pan,
that?
go bow to the wall.
Yes. No.
Go- And hold on, before you say that, me have one little brother will watch this program here. Call upon this program here talk about Mark Gold in a Jew. And him no want no Jew. So
Alright,
Andrew
hold on.
Let's go bow to the wall down there. Andrew Let's want to be a Jew.
Hold on. I think there is a in the party
Hello.
party right now. I think a guy run for Clarendon.
Morning.
So him come to Jamaica. Him not have no Latin party
Yes,
in
it is,
Jamaica. He's
quickly.
one of the them is a Jew Zionist. And you want to go on now. Since the hurricane last, some of them come to Jamaica and
$500
them
per
vanish
person.
from the system. You hear me?
Yes, man, continue.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
every day.
since
On a radio
the
program.
hurricane last year, some of them come in Jamaica and them vanish in the system. So let me tell you,
Caller? Where the caller there? Hello? Yeah, you said some of them come to Jamaica and do what?
Some of them same Jew that them talk about come to Jamaica after the hurricane last
Yes.
year. And you know, you know more about them vanish in the system.
I
So,
said I'm on a
what them
radio
do now?
program. You didn't hear that?
Hello?
Yes, sir. Continue.
Yeah, so what them do now, you know, them slowly come over to take over your government, you know, because the Mexican Prime Minister, President, she's a Zionist. The Argentina President or Prime Minister, he's a Zionist, him related to Netanyahu. What them try to do, them try come in your government with them corrupt system, you know, because all Jew Zionists are something them are Jew, you know. When them call them down there, them must fool them. I think them guys they are Jew, you know.
Me no know who are Jew. Yeah, me no want you label nobody.
Yeah, but when me just use the word to say when them talk about them no want no Jew. We no condemn a Jew, you know, but you have a thing at Zionists, you know.
Oh, listen.
Them the people you can't trust, you know, because them are cause a problem in the world, you know. So when some people like Mark Gold in Jew or what they want, tell them to go read them history. Read the history. Because I think in the 13th century, the first set of Jew them come to Jamaica, Port Royal, you know. And when the British government when British in control, and them couldn't get nothing imported in Jamaica, about 10 places them run them out of. So when some people are talking about Jew, they need to go read history. May I come back to this thing, you know, where the corruption, where this guy out of East involved in it. Netanyahu right now is a war criminal. And if you see the amount of things, corruption when involved in in country, a prison and save himself from go. You understand me?
Yes.
And those are the people who Andrew Holness associate himself with. I listen, you are Ralston talk the other day about the amount of money we borrow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We're in the GLP thing the other day. And I want some people not understand the whole dynamics of the spin sack thing here, where you hear them run up their mouth and run up and down and chat. See?
Yeah.
All of these people are the money where you see them make. Some of them money are come back from way back at them time then. Yes, back in the 80s, 90s, from that time. For them money are come back over there, so. And this is where you see most of them in the Labour Party, because anybody in the PNP party ever have a little bit of money like where you hear them are going with it. Them flush them out long time, you know. Jail Andrew Holness personally flush them out, you know.
Yeah.
So we are talking about this whole heap of bag of corruption and sitting. If you look for Andrew Holness, who him associate with.
Yes.
Yes? Who him associate, because even the Trump guy, nobody push him aside, you know. One of the biggest crook, you know. Because I don't know if you know, say, before the 28th of last month, Team Son, a $30 million Team Son bet, so they will kill the man over Iran, you know.
You sure
So
about hold on. Where you get that from?
Listen, man. Listen.
No, may I ask you where you get it from?
But you have a guy called a journalist called Grey Zone, Max Blumenthal. Max Blumenthal. Yes? Grey Zone. Just type in your Grey Zone.
Yeah, man, but let me tell you something. Though. You have a whole heap of people out there say a whole heap of things. You understand?
We know what you're talking about.
And
Conspiracy.
you see, you have a lot of people saying a lot of things. You have a whole heap of people come up with a whole heap of theory. But listen, we look for facts and truth on this channel. So I don't know if that's true. I not say a lie, I tell you now, but I don't know if that's true.
Hold on. You want me to say?
Yeah.
Me gonna say it. You don't believe me. Not me I say. I know your channel. And me I say.
Yeah,
so
but me respond. Hold on, no man. Listen to me. Listen to me. Me responsible for what come through this channel.
All right, boss. All right.
Yeah.
Boss. All right. Yeah. No,
so
do a lot of reading.
I know anybody can come say anything and say, Shaka, I know you say it. This is not the channel, I me say it, but me still responsible for what come through.
Yeah. But you know what? We do a lot of reading. And we're not going to listen to mainstream media because mainstream media, if you notice, the NBC, the CNN, BBC, come to England and so. BBC and all of them. They're not give you factual things.
No, it's not that they're not giving you factual things. Sometimes they don't give you the full, be verified.
But not all the time. Not all the time.
All right. Quickly though, because we have some housekeeping. We have Mark Golden this morning at 9:30, and we have little more things we want to bring across before we go. So wrap up.
Yeah, man. As me that say, we don't look at something out of East Kingston there. The Prime Minister,
not East Kingston, not East Kingston, yeah. Central Kingston.
Central Kingston. And the Prime Minister I think. So why all of them something are going on in Jamaica? It comes down to Andrew Holness because guess what now? As a man who preside over the whole government and all of these things, he put in a whole heap of things in place when him coming in at 2016, 2017. And guess what now? All of the lawmaker them from film side breach the law. All of them including himself. That's why him can't say nothing. No, him can't say nothing.
All right, brother. Respect. Big up and thanks.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. Respect.
Now, as this brethren talk about Israel, I want to bring up something about Israel. Hold on for me, caller. I want to bring up something about Israel because Jamaica in bed with Israel and Israel vote against we. Listen this. Listen to this.
Deputy Chair of the Reparations Council of Jamaica, Attorney Bert Samuels, has denounced the United States for voting against the resolution on the enslavement of Africans. The United Nations General Assembly adopted a resolution on Wednesday, proposed by Ghana, that recognized the enslavement of Africans during the transatlantic slave trade as the gravest crime against humanity. 123 countries voted in favor of the resolution, while Argentina, the United States, and Israel opposed, and several European nations abstained. Mr. Samuels has also expressed surprise at a similar action by Israel, taking into account the murder of millions of Jews during World War II. But he agrees the abstentions and opposition to the UN resolution do not detract from the moment.
I'm particularly troubled about Israel's position. I know no one wants to criticize them, but they had 4 years of the Holocaust, and we thought that our 400 years of our Holocaust would not be voted against. But racism runs deep in the world. People feel that if they suffered for 4 years, it's more and it's graver than our 400 years. United States should be ashamed of itself. A huge part of its population were enslaved and built America, and they have the gall to come before United Nations and oppose that this happened in their backyard. So it's a great day, as my sisters just said, and we celebrate it.
Deputy Chair of the Reparations Council of Jamaica, Attorney Bert Samuels.
I wonder if you don't understand what that means. And Prime Minister Andrew Holness and the Jamaica Labour Party are hug up Israel. Yeah? Are hug up Israel. Israel vote against we forget reparation. So did the United States of America. Voted against it. I tell you, I can't believe these people, I can't believe these people. And before I go to the next caller, I have to play this thing here from Auntie Donna Scott Motley. I have to play this because this is something that I have been quoting on this channel for some time. Yeah? Listen to Donna Scott Motley in the Senate yesterday.
Hi. Let it not be like...
Hold on, Auntie Donna. Start from the top.
I promise I'm not being short as I had promised, but I remember, and I'm not going to tell you the whole of it, but I remember when Winston Churchill made a poem famous.
No, man, we're on.
It was actually a poem written by Claude
Never
McKay.
send you the link.
And it came to my mind many times. You know, when the Prime Minister spoke at the heads of government, I actually commended him on how he approached it. Let me be clear. I thought he had a difficult task. I thought he navigated it well. I thought, no, I did it in an interview. Come, Senator Morgan, you know me well. CVM. But let me tell you this. Let me tell you this. If you will just give me Claude McKay's poem, Senator Thompson. I don't know if you like poetry. I do. It says, if we must die, let it not be like hogs, hunted and penned in an inglorious spot, while round us bark the mad and hungry dogs, making their mock of our cursed lot. If we must die, oh, let us nobly die, so that our precious blood will not be spent in vain. So even the monsters we defy shall be constrained to honor us, though dead. There is a place for principle, and people actually respect you when you demonstrate principle and integrity. When you are compliant and submissive and subservient, trust me, they will only take more advantage of you, because that is the psychology of human behavior. If it pleases you.
I carry the clip a little longer, and I'm going to tell you why. Listen.
Thank you. Thank you. Senator Scott Motley,
Yes.
you quoted Churchill?
No, I quoted Churchill quoting Claude McKay.
McKay, okay.
Claude McKay was from
Yes, I know. And he was from Clarendon. Yes.
So where you ask?
I'm aware.
So why you asking that, Mr. President? Is Claude McKay, the Jamaican, Churchill quoted? Yeah? If we must die, let us die like men and not like hogs. Let me take the call. Carla, good morning. Morning. Welcome to the Colin Bell Show.
Good morning, Colin. Can you hear me?
Yes, man. I'm hearing you loud and clear.
I have a question for you and the people in the chat room, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Is Daniel Williams a reincarnation of the 19th century thief Jack Smith?
Daniel, hold on. His name is Donovan, not Daniel.
Yeah, Donovan, yeah. Is he a reincarnation of Jack Smith, the 19th century thief? Or is just one of the nursery of the JLP?
Well, I told Jamaicans before the last general election that we have a set of bandit and gangsters running Jamaica. And they never believed me. They did not believe me. And here comes the lady from outer central Kingston, the Raytown division, telling us all that is happening down there, my brother. I don't know what to call him. I'm not going to style nobody. But like Peter Gay Ferguson from the General Secretary of the PNP YO said, Donovan must step aside. And not just for this, but for the fact that he's hiding shares for somebody else, which is illegal.
Karim, there's a culture in the JP party, right? Siaga borrow money from Central National when Siaga was the finance minister of the country. And he also parodied himself as the best finance minister Jamaica ever see. And he was down there scamming money off the Jamaican
Jamaican people who work off of the money and put in the bank. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And then you have Jack Smith who milk the farmers them who work at Canada, the poor farmers them who try to give the family to live up to the family. And he's sitting there for 4 years, ripping off the farmers. Colin, didn't know that when Jack Smith entered the parliament, he was driving a banger.
Well,
and when he left, when he left, I don't really what pastors. When he left, he had 2 E-class Benz parked in his garage. And listen to me, and Bush Golding knew exactly what was going on when he was in the ministry. And Bush Golding do nothing about it. And when he died, he go and sing, or he's a angel, the best minister in the Ministry of Labour. You know what I'm saying? He's a culture there, mate. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just wondering if this guy Donovan, what's his name, is a reincarnation of Jack Smith, or he just want more than the nursery of a JLP. You know what I mean? Because technically, he's playing the role of monkey see, monkey do. So he's following his leader.
What monkey see, monkey
do.
Yes.
Yeah, he's technically following his leader. You know what I mean? And his leader is also part of the.
You ever hear the soca?
The husband of the nursery.
You ever hear the soca song where say follow the leader, follow the leader?
Yes. And you know something? The leader cannot say nothing to him. The leader cannot stand up and say to me, you are fired. He do have the power because what? He knows his secret.
What Mark Golden tell you about if the head of the stream is dirty? What did Mark Golden tell you about? Yeah, everybody in the dirtiness. So
Colin, listen to me, the Prime Minister cannot fire him. Listen to me, he can't fire him. Because if he fire him, he's walking on thin ice, so to speak.
Yeah, man.
Because he has a secret. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, as I say, this is a culture in the JLP party. It's nothing new. You know what I'm saying?
All right,
you
brother.
And the sad thing about it, they are using Jamaica so-called Mother Teresa slash street kind of talk, Babsy Grades to cool down the fire.
Who is that?
What else? You mean the so-called Mother Teresa? Jamaica Mother Teresa?
Who are the Mother Teresa?
So-called Mother Teresa is Babsy Grades, mate.
Oh,
street kind of talk.
Okay, all right.
Okay, take care, mate.
Blessings, enough respect.
Tell them to try pre-we, big up Portland Spice TV. Tell them to try pre-we, big up Portland Spice TV. Remember to subscribe. See, Portland Spice TV, Louis Culture say it once, so I say it again. Portland Spice TV. We are going to hold them and pop it off. Bogus match where we rip off. Subscribe, share. Portland Spice TV is here. Woo!
A man that is always on time. Mr. Punctuality. Have you ever late for anything?
I have been many times, but I try to avoid being late, you know.
No.
I just, yeah.
No,
I try to organize.
I know you as a man who is always punctual. Even when you're coming on tours and things, I said to the people at the meeting, if the party leader says he's going to be here at 10 o'clock, he's going to be here at 10. So be there. Morning, Mr. Mark Golden, leader of opposition.
Morning, Colin, the great Colin Bell.
Welcome
Portland Spice TV.
Welcome, sir. Welcome. Current leader, we have watched the budget presentation. I don't remember. Have I spoken to you since the general election on the channel?
I'm not sure we have.
I don't know. I don't remember if we have spoken, but if we have not spoken, congratulations on doubling the seat. I know we wanted to win. We're never going there for double seat. We're going there for win. But It is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah.
And
It was bittersweet, more bitter than sweet, obviously, because we didn't win. But as you said, to increase the vote by over 100,000 over 2020 election, double the seat count from 14 to 28, and one of them still before the court, which could make it to 29, depending on how that plays out.
Yes.
And yeah, it's a good looking parliament now. It's a much more even balance in parliament, and we have a lot of impressive new members of parliament in the house.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And some of them are coming to the fore.
Indeed. And some bright new faces in the Senate as well. So, I think the opposition is definitely more than holding its own. I think we're showing Jamaica that we have a strong team with a good balance of gender, intellect, street smarts, and of course, all of us committed to uplifting the people of Jamaica and finding and pursuing a model of development that is inclusive, that delivers greater levels of wealth to our people, equitably shared, and a society which is cohesive and where we're governed along the lines and principles of accountability and integrity.
If you're just joining us this morning, we're talking to Jamaica's opposition leader, Mark Jefferson Golden. We listened to your presentation in the parliament on the budget, and we also listened to the opposition spokesman on finance give his presentation. Mm-hmm. We listened to the Prime Minister, we listened to the Minister of Finance twice. And in her closing, she insisted that the tax measures implemented by the government had to be implemented. Here is a chance for you to counter that.
Listen, it's a question of what you prioritize and how you go about seeking to achieve your priorities. So the government has been faced with a downturn in the economy from Hurricane Melissa. And even prior to that, there were structural challenges in the budget, because if you notice, in 24-25 fiscal year and 25-26 fiscal year, they have been heavily reliant in their budgeting on what we call non-tax revenues. One-off revenues from specific transactions which cannot be repeated. So in 24-25, there was a sale of the future income of the Norman Manley Airport. They sold it and raised a little over $70 billion towards the budget. That's 12 years of future income, which is no longer belonging to Jamaica. And so that's gone. They took the money up front, spent it in that fiscal year. In 25-26, the fiscal year ending now, they did a similar transaction, yielding just over $60 billion for the future revenues, I think 10 years of future revenues, for the Sangster International Airport in Montego Bay. They took that money up front, and the future revenues no longer belong to Jamaica. So that's how they've been funding the budget. And there have been other things as well. In fact, Senator Raman Small Ferguson yesterday in the Senate highlighted the fact that things like the asset tax, which were intended to be temporary and were explicitly imposed on a temporary basis during a fiscal crisis when our debt was over 140% of GDP, those have been normalized and made permanent. Similarly, the extraction of $11.4 billion a year out of the National Housing Trust, those have been subsequently, that was for 4 years. The law was amended for 4 specific years, and it should have ended. They've continued it now for a further 10, and now they've announced they're going to do it for 5 more years. And even the tax on fuel that was established in 2015 to pay for insurance in the form of what's called a hedging contract, where you go out into the financial market and you buy insurance to say that if the price of oil goes above a certain specific amount per barrel, then you get a payment under the hedging contract to basically cover most of that increased cost of oil. And that was to protect Jamaica, which is heavily dependent on oil and gas, from the volatility in the oil price internationally. And they abandoned the hedging program, but they kept the tax. So we're still collecting this tax on fuel, but we don't have any insurance in place. And Jamaica is going to feel it now because of the failure to maintain that hedging program, where we see the oil price, because of the Middle East war, spiking and going over $100 per barrel when the budget was predicated on a price per barrel of somewhere in the region of $60. So to go back to your question now, I just set the context, you know.
Yes.
They found themselves this fiscal year facing a gap. And they decided to fill that gap by maintaining the extraction of $11.4 billion from the National Housing Trust and imposing a tax package of roughly $18 billion of new taxes on the people. And we said, look, in opposition, it's not our job to come up with a detailed budget. We don't have an army of civil servants to prepare budgets.
And technocrats and all of that.
And all of that. But looking at the numbers as presented in the budget documents, and stepping back and thinking about how else we could approach it, we said, look, since the economy is already going through 2 successive years of negative real GDP growth, the economy is shrinking. And under Melissa, that was made worse. And they're projecting for the coming fiscal year negative real GDP growth again of 0.5%. That's in their fiscal policy paper projections. We said, look, impose a tax package on an economy that's already moving in the wrong direction. It's only going to push it further in that direction because it takes disposable income out of consumers' pockets and means that demand that drives economic activity is suppressed. So we said that's the wrong economic approach in an economic downturn. So we have to find a different way of funding it. And we said that's possible. And so what we looked at was tax compliance measures that can generate revenue from the existing tax regime, not putting new taxes on the people, and where other countries have done this successfully. And we said, looking at what's happened elsewhere, the potential to raise additional revenue from this type of focus is very significant. But we said, because we knew the time frame for rolling it out would be short, we identified $8.6 billion of revenue that could be generated from moving to a real-time invoicing system where all invoices generated by businesses, and we would start with large businesses in the service sector because Jamaica's economy is 70-odd% services, and then in the financial services, tourism services, and so on. There are major players, the professional firms like lawyers and accountants and so on. We would require them to upload their invoices on a real-time basis, both for their purchases and their sales. And you could reconcile that against their actual GCT returns each month and identify where there's leakage. And we know there's substantial leakage. And that we think could generate a lot more revenue than 8.4 billion, but it would take some time to roll out. So we would focus on the bigger players initially, and we estimated that we could cover 8-point mash from that source. We also looked at the Digital Nomads program that Barbados had successfully rolled out during COVID, essentially encouraging professionals who deliver their services largely through the digital domain and do not need to be resident in a particular country in order to do that. All they need is internet access, essentially, and a place to work, encouraging them to come and set up their own home here and live life here and do their work from here. And Barbados put a series of measures around promoting that and got a lot of people to come, high net worth individuals typically, who come and spend their money in your economy and help to drive economic activity, drive tax collections because they're spending. And so taxes are being collected on sales, etc. And we said Jamaica should do that because geographically, culturally, language-wise, lifestyle-wise, this is an attractive jurisdiction. We could sell it. And they don't all have to be in Kingston. Some of them could be in Portland. You know, some of them could be in desirable places where there's a lot of beauty and so on, and they can live in a relaxed atmosphere and do their work. So based on what we'd seen happen in Barbados, we estimated that some revenue could be generated from that source as well. And then we looked at some public bodies which have accumulated surpluses on their balance sheet, and we said we would take some resources from the Bank of Jamaica. The government is programming $9 billion of distribution from the surplus of BOJ. We say we'd take an extra one to make it 10. And similarly, the Factories Corporation has surplus in there. We would take $2 billion of that surplus as well. So just looking at where the different pockets of resources were and how tax compliance and other things could be put together, this is how we would make up the difference without imposing new taxes. Essentially, what we were trying to do with this was to show Jamaica that it's not just a narrow bookkeeping exercise when you're deciding tax policy. It has to be driven by an economic philosophy and an economic policy that is going to push the country in the direction it needs to go. Imposing taxes on people when the economy is already in a slump is bad policy, and it's to be avoided if possible. And we said these are ways in which it could be avoided. Of course, Minister Favour Williams, in closing the budget debate, poo-pooed all of that and said, no, it could never be done in time and it would never generate any revenue, etc., etc. But that's a management determination.
They also said you couldn't take the money from the Bank of Jamaica.
Well, again, so she said, but what she was saying there is that you can't force BOJ to pay a distribution because they're supposedly independent. But BOJ is part of the Jamaican economic matrix, and it's a public body. And they are distributing profits to the government in the coming fiscal year of, as I understand it, 9 billion. And we were suggesting 1 more billion. In fact, I think in the budget during COVID or the year after, Nigel Clark took over $20 billion of surplus out of the BOJ.
21-22 budget.
Well, there you go. In order to, that was a major part of the fiscal program for that year. Another example of one-off non-sustainable tax revenue. So, Favour was essentially trying to just belittle our presentations because of the politics of it, because it looked bad on her that she had come with such an unimaginative set of solutions that are in fact going to further depress economic activity at a time when we're already in a slump. Do
you believe down the road, because these ideas presented by yourself and Julian Robinson are credible ideas that are workable? We heard a lot of financial analysts, some who are even on their side saying that, look, these are workable. In between 2012 and 2016, you basically were the person behind crafting a lot of the legislation so as to sort out the tax system in Jamaica. Yeah. And here we are now saying that there are a lot of leakages. Speak to us about what you did back then, so as the government now is collecting large amount of taxes, more than any other administration in Jamaica. And you are looking forward and saying that we can even map up more. Speak to us about that.
Yeah. So when the PNP came back to office in the beginning of 2012, after the general election of late December 2011, we were faced with a situation of crisis because the JLP government had drawn down a massive amount of resources under an IMF program, which was designed to give them more resources up front. And they had a series of things that they were supposed to do to restructure the economy and get Jamaica out of its problems, its public debt problems. And they didn't deliver on any of it. So the program collapsed. They lost the election by a landslide. And we came into office facing those problems. It took Peter Phillips and Portia Simpson Miller a year to try and restore credibility with the international financial community. And in fact, it was the Congressional Black Caucus, with whom Sister P had a strong relationship, Maxine Waters and others, who marched down to the IMF on Christmas Eve, I believe, of 2012, to persuade Madame Lagarde, who was the managing director of the IMF at the time, to give Jamaica another chance. And she did. And so we entered a very difficult program, a challenging program, which required us to do a number of things up front, including things like a debt restructuring, a consensual debt restructuring, and some tax measures and so on. And then to deliver on a program of reforms, what they call structural benchmarks. That's what the IMF program refers to these reforms as. All with fixed dates attached to them. So I remember I had, I think, over 13 pieces of legislation that because I was the Minister of Justice in the government, and I was charged with the responsibility of delivering on the legislative program, which was a major part of what Jamaica was committed to. So there were the financial metrics, various ratios that we had to certain primary surplus targets and so on that Dr. Phillips, as Minister of Finance, had to deliver. And then there were all these structural benchmarks, which I had to deliver on. So I was very determined not to fail at that. So I got to work with the team, the Chief Parliamentary Counsel and other members of the Office of Parliamentary Counsel, the Attorney General's chambers, legal reform and others. And, we just got the work done. And we passed those various acts of parliament all on time, and we passed every test. And elements of those were tax related. So we amended the Customs Act to introduce what's called the ASICUDA system, which is a kind of a digital system, an ecosystem that runs the port now. It's an internationally acclaimed system, and Jamaica adopted that, and customs revenues have significantly improved since then. We also amended various tax laws, the Revenue Collection Act and the Revenue Administration Act, to impose various new requirements that would improve tax collection. And the raft of measures, including the introduction of the RICE system, which is I can't remember what that acronym stands for, but it's Revenue Administration something. But that has really made a huge difference. So if you track on a graph Jamaica's revenue collections since 2013 and up to the present day, and you track GDP growth, nominal GDP growth, and you track inflation over that period, you'll see that the highest line by far is the tax collection line. Jamaica's rate of increase of tax collection over that period since we implement those reforms has been higher than inflation and has been higher than nominal GDP growth. And that is why they've been able to say no new taxes, although they did implement new taxes. Because with the $1.5 million promise that they used, and they said would be paid for without any new taxes, which was a lie, they proceeded to impose over 30 billion of new taxes over a 2-year period in order to pay for the $1.5 million promise. So, but they have not since then imposed new taxes, or certainly not net new taxes, but revenues have grown faster than inflation and faster than nominal GDP growth. So they haven't had to, because the reforms that were implemented have been so successful at generating, even in a sluggish economy, because the economy has been sluggish under the JLP for 10 years. The average rate of GDP growth in Jamaica has been around 1%. I think slightly less.
0.8%.
There you go.
Opposition leader.
There you go. So despite the fact that our economy is not performing well, it's puttering along in a fairly stagnant situation. Nevertheless, the revenues available to the government and the fiscal space that has provided has been very significant. So we have a track record of delivering on effective tax reform. And, they try to maintain that we love to tax people. But if you look at it, we're the ones who reduced GCT from 17.5% to 16%. We're the ones who reduced personal income tax and company income tax from 33.33% to 25%. And we introduced the employee tax credit, which allows a company that is compliant with its statutory deductions for its workforce and so on, they can get a tax credit that can take their effective tax rate down to 17%. And it encourages compliance and it encourages employment. So it's a very clever system that was devised, not by us, by the private sector working group on tax, but we adopted it and implemented it. I remember in legislation committee drafting out those provisions with the technocrats, which are now in the law, along with the fiscal responsibility framework in its current form, which ensures that when you talk about good economic management that has built sustainability and reduced the public debt, that is in the law. That is not a discretionary thing.
It was in the law. It was put in the law in the Portia Simpson Middle administration.
That's correct. I was the person in the legislation committee chairing it. I remember the algorithm that is in the 5th schedule to the Financial Administration and Audit Act, which is a complex equation that sets out how much, when you look at all the different variables, economic variables, what is the outcome, and there's a target of 7.5% of GDP primary surplus, and that was legislated. So a Minister of Finance doesn't have room for maneuver when it comes to running fiscal surpluses to pay down the debt. It was in the law that they had to do it, and they had to do it.
But tell me this, opposition leader, what has the present administration put in place to improve those tax measures that were put in place under the last PNP administration since 2016?
They haven't done much on the tax compliance side of things. I mean, the establishment of TAJ, Tax Administration Jamaica, as a semi-autonomous revenue body, that legislation was done by us during that period. I mean, they have basically implemented administratively the requirements of the laws that were passed, and those have yielded fruit. In terms of further reforms of significance, I can't really think of anything. One major reform that is outstanding was the final Customs Act amendment, because we amended the Customs Act, I think twice, in our period of government, to implement things like the Asikuda system I was telling you about. But there was a further major overhaul of it that was supposed to have taken place. In fact, a repeal of the old Customs Act with a completely new Customs Act. There are no, 10 years later, that is not done. This is why I made the point in my budget presentation that the government is really lackadaisical when it comes to management of the legislative process. And this is not just an academic thing. It has real consequences, practical consequences. Legislation is something that is a responsibility of the government to initiate and pass, and it can be done without massive expenditure. It don't cost you no money to do it, because the staff are already on your payroll. And if you need to increase the staff, it's 1 or 2 people you come in on a contract to help. It's not a big deal financially, but it requires serious attention and focus and management, because it's hard work, and there are lots of competing pieces of legislation that ministers want to see passed, and you have to prioritize the ones that are going to be most important to you and get them done. And there's so many examples where they fail to do that. They fail to pass a new Customs Act. The Occupational Health and Safety Act, OSHA, which is supposed to guarantee the rights of workers from injury due to inadequate or ineffective safety
measures on the workplace.
They've not dealt with that. The new Companies Act, they tabled a bill and they withdrew the bill and they've never pursued it, which would allow Jamaicans who have companies overseas to migrate those companies to Jamaica. Right now, you can't do that. Our law doesn't permit that, but it should, because we want to encourage people to bring companies back to Jamaica and pay their fees locally and generate tax
support
revenue.
The local economy.
Of course.
Opposition leaders staying on the economy a little bit, because it is critical to Jamaica's growth, and the fact that since 2016 we have only grown 0.8%. Do you think that in the last general election the PNP articulated that position enough to get the Jamaican people to understand that the economy is not in a good place, even though the Prime Minister was out there telling everybody that the economy was stable, it's in a good place and good economic and nyam and all of that?
Well, we made efforts to do so. At the end of the day, some of these arguments are kind of technical, and not everybody's that interested in them. And perhaps we could have done a better job at that element of communication. I wouldn't say no to that. But we were focused on a lot of things at that time that were of importance. The old buses that they were bringing in, for example, and our own policies and programs, more importantly, because we wanted to show Jamaica that there was a better way, and that we had ideas, we had proposals that would improve their lives in critical areas, in the education system, the First in Family Scholarship to University as a tool of social transformation to take families out of poverty. The reform of the Student Loan Bureau, so that our students, when they borrow to invest in their education, don't have to worry that they won't be able to service those loans later on because the loans payments will be capped at a percentage of their actual income. And if they are unemployed for periods of time, their obligation is suspended for the period of unemployment, and those payments are tacked onto the back end of their loan, so they don't have to fret. In the area of housing, establishing a deposit fund within the NHT to allow any youngsters, young professionals or others who have contributed to at least 2 years in the NHT, when they're buying their first home, they can get a $500,000 grant towards buying their home. The idea of the rent to own, where you allow persons who can't afford the deposit and don't have a pay slip because they're not formally employed, can go into possession as a tenant of an NHT built house or an NHT financed house and pay their rental, which would be equivalent to the mortgage payment, and over a 6 month period, as long as they're doing that on a timely basis, we would treat that as proof of capacity to pay without them needing a pay slip. So self-employed individuals, your hairdressers, your taxi operators, small shop owners, etc., they could qualify for an NHT mortgage through the rent-to-own scheme. We had many proposals. I'm just naming a few of them.
Yes.
In education, our RIDE program to provide rural school children with a subsidy based on an analysis by the school and the government as to why students are not attending 5 days a week to school. And those students where clearly they have financial challenges with transportation, we would provide a subsidy for them. And that would be spent with pre-vetted transport operators. We're not importing old buses to do this. We would have a pool of licensed transport operators who would carry out the service and paid for by the government to do that.
Let me ask you to pause there, because you mentioned the buses about twice.
Right.
And the information is out there that you wrote to the Auditor General asking her to dig deep into this bus situation, something that a lot of us have been calling for. Why did you find it necessary to do that?
I did that, I think it was July last year, when the announcement was made of this program where they had purchased old buses for $1.4 billion. I think it was 110 old buses.
Yes.
It was very peculiar, because Jamaica is a mountainous country. Our rural road network is in a poor condition.
Narrow roads.
These are all American yellow school buses that run on flat roads, very high quality roads in the US. And we didn't think this was an appropriate policy. We didn't think it was workable. And then when we made a fuss about it, we started to receive information. People were sending information. I got a copy of an invoice for some of these buses.
Yes.
And when I worked out the price per bus from that invoice, I realized that it was, if you extrapolated that over 110 buses, you'd get nowhere near 1.4 billion. You'd get something, it was about $200 or $300 million. So that looked very odd. And then there was the fact that these buses weren't going through the normal pre-clearance requirements before they're allowed in. It was a sole sourcing situation. It never went out to tender. Somebody who was apparently not in the business of dealing in buses, by the way, because the supplier in the US, we checked that out, and they are not a transportation company. They are general consultants. So the whole thing smelled very fishy. So I decided that we ought to ask the Auditor General to look at it carefully, because these are public funds. So it's our responsibility as the opposition to deal with things like that. So I did. And I gather that is being looked at now.
And since that opposition leader, we are hearing, we heard before that a certain MP would not be going back, but now we are hearing that a certain MP will be leaving pretty soon, and there are movements on the ground in Western Portland. Are you aware of that?
I've heard the rumors. Obviously nothing official has been said about it, and I haven't spoken to him personally about it. But I've heard the rumors. I've heard they're sending the fellow who Dr. Dawes beat in in Southeast St. Catherine that he wants to come to Western Portland,
Yeah.
to be the successor to the current MP. Yeah, I've heard some of those rumors, but you know, it is what it is.
Let's stay on corruption for a bit,
Mhm.
because there is also a lot of voice note out there now coming from Central Kingston with the councillor speaking a lot about the MP. The point I want to ask you about, as somebody who knows the legislation very well, who understands Parliament and know the rules of Parliament, we have an MP in the Parliament who have admitted that he has shares that he's holding for somebody that none of us know about. You are still sitting in the Parliament with that MP. Corruption was at the center of the last campaign as well. Speak to us about issues like those happening in the Parliament.
Yeah, well, we are aware, for example, there was this scandal involving the importation of, or the purchase of a drill, a surgical drill.
Yes.
Which, for a price, I think it was over $30 million for this drill.
Yeah.
And it was purchased by I think it was the Southeast Regional Health Authority, which is part of the public sector.
Yes.
And our health spokesman looked at it, and it was very, very odd. First of all, the market value for that drill was somewhere in the region of, I think it's $3 or $4 million. Jamaican, we're talking.
Yes.
And the company that sold this drill for $30+ million to the government was a company in which an MP, I think it's the MP for Central Kingston, was on record at the company's office of Jamaica as owning 80% of the shares in that company.
Yes.
So, that just looked like a situation which needed to be properly investigated. So we made a fuss about that. And I'm hoping that it's being investigated. I mean, the way this thing works is the country has an anti-corruption architecture in place. It has the Integrity Commission, which was brought into effect, I think, in 2018. It was developed actually when I was Minister of Justice. The legislation was developed under my watch. We had recognized that Jamaica had a fragmented system with 3 different agencies: the Contractor General, the Parliamentary Integrity Commission, and the Corruption Prevention Commission, all looking at different aspects of this whole thing. And they weren't sharing information among themselves. They weren't able to share information with the tax authorities or with law enforcement. So that fragmenting system was very inefficient and ineffective. We did a study, looked at best practices across many jurisdictions. Sierra Leone actually was one that we focused on because they have introduced a single agency, and that's been very effective. And I put together a team to bring all of that into a submission that went to Cabinet. Cabinet approved the idea. I developed the drafting instructions. The legislation was drafted, taken back to Cabinet, approved for tabling. We tabled it, went to a joint select committee for quite a long time. It was reviewed with a fine-tooth comb. Certain adjustments were proposed. Then the election came. We lost. The government came in. Because it had momentum and people were looking forward to it, the government couldn't drop it. I don't think they really loved it, but they couldn't. They had to proceed with it. And so they made some adjustments to it. Not much, but they made some, and then it was passed and is now in effect. That is the main anti-corruption agency. Then there's MOCA, which Peter Bunting pioneered when he was Minister of National Security, and which has now been legislated, has a statutory footing, which is a major organized crime and anti-corruption task force or agency. So there's that. There's the Financial Investigations Division, which is dealing with financial crime investigation. There's the RPD, the Revenue Protection Division, which is within the tax system. All of these bodies are supposed to work together. They're supposed to share information among each other. There are provisions that allow them to receive and share information with similar bodies internationally, because a lot of crime is transnational. And so they are responsible for the investigation and prosecution of corruption. The Integrity Commission has specific powers to prosecute corruption offenses. They have their own mini DPP. They have a director of corruption prosecutions who is subject to the overall control under the Constitution of the Director of Public Prosecutions, in the sense that the DPP can discontinue or take over any prosecution in the country. That's a constitutional power. But subject to that, the Director of Corruption
Prosecution
can initiate and carry right through, and is a specialist, is intended to be. I'm not sure if I'm still on. Am I still on? Uh-oh. I think I've lost you.
It's on my opposition leader. It's not.
Yes. All right. Yeah, man.
I am not in Jamaica, and
okay.
I am in the Caribbean, and their connectivity is not as good as ours.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm glad you're back.
When the pressure takes the line, because right now we have over 1,300 people online, and when the pressure takes it, sometimes this do happen. But sorry about that.
No problem. So the point I was really making is our role as representatives of the people and as persons who have sworn to uphold and defend the Constitution and the rule of law generally in the country is that when things come to our attention that sound credible and are problematic around integrity, around accountability, around corruption, we are responsible for ensuring that the agencies of the state that were set up and are funded to investigate and prosecute those matters, that they are aware of them and that they are armed with whatever information we have and that they can do their job. So that is really how we approach it. Within Parliament, it's difficult to hold people accountable because there's no impeachment procedure, which is something that Bruce Golding had brought legislation, I think it was in 2010 or 11, to introduce a constitutional amendment to establish an impeachment procedure in the Constitution, meaning that if a parliamentarian or public official behaved in a manner that was unacceptable, there was a process by which Parliament could look at it and then refer them to a tribunal outside of Parliament that would look at the case and make a determination as to whether they should be sanctioned in some way.
But opposition leader, what do you say to those of us who are saying that the opposition is not vociferous enough in the Parliament? Because we saw the Prime Minister in his budget presentation on his feet saying, when we talk about corruption, a Prime Minister whose statutory filing has not been certified. And also with an MP holding shares for somebody that nobody knows who he's holding those shares for, when they, under the GLP administration, passed a law that no shares should be held in secret. And we don't hear the opposition talking, even in your speech, even in the Shadow Minister of Finance speech, or even in the sort of what you comment, because when you were speaking, they were commenting all over Pierre Noise and Pierre sort of what you comment coming up in your speech.
They were trying to get me off my game, and off my stride, but that's par for the course. I've been in the Parliament nearly 20 years now, so I don't let those things bother me. I just press on and say what I need to say. But no, I mean, we have hammered that theme home for a few years, I mean, I've raised it on numerous occasions. You remember, I think it was 2 years ago, the Prime Minister walked out of Parliament during my budget presentation.
And I was hoping that you'd go back for that speech, opposition leader, because this time you by yourself, your side have a quorum in the Parliament, so they couldn't shut down the Parliament this time.
Agreed. But I didn't, because I thought there were other things that I wanted to focus on this year, and you can't really focus on everything.
Yes.
And the truth of the matter is the Jamaican people had the opportunity on September 3rd, 2025 to make a decision around how seriously they take these things. And we see the outcome. So,
but a lot of anky-panky going on that in opposition leader.
Yes.
I mean, I sit here on a regular basis and I blame the people who voted for the Labour Party and those who didn't vote. But we also know in our hearts of hearts that some untoward things also happened.
Yeah, and we have an appraisal going on, looking at that. You know, we have a committee that's tasked with looking at what went wrong for us then. But yeah, suffice to say that on this occasion, I was focused more on a restatement of our policy positions in our manifesto and showing how they would answer very real issues facing the people and which the government doesn't have an answer for. And that's really what I wanted to deliver this time around. The matter of the Integrity Commission declaration and of the Prime Minister is supposedly being looked at by the Financial Investigations Division. Of course, they appointed somebody to that position, the head of that, the Chief Technical Director, I think is what his position is, who had already been on record publicly as saying there was nothing wrong with what the Prime Minister had done and that the report of the Integrity Commission on the Prime Minister's affairs didn't show anything untoward in it. He should not have been appointed to that position. That was clearly an appropriate appointment. But we protested it, but, you know, it went ahead nevertheless. That's the nature of things, you know, if we don't have power or in opposition. So all we can do is make a fuss. And if the people are sufficiently energized around it, we can actually go on the street and demonstrate and so on. But, you know, that's, so we will continue to do that. But, you know, it's like, you know, it's almost like you're flogging a dead horse sometimes, you know. So I think that, you know, perhaps you're right. Perhaps we should have focused again on this issue of corruption and made it a centerpiece of what we had to say.
And then also show people that it was not just an election gimmick, but it's a concern of the opposition and of the people of Jamaica by how much money we are losing to corruption annually.
Right. No, I take your point. I just think that, you know, perhaps, as I said, this was an occasion where I wanted to focus on some other things. And, you know, the speech was already 3 hours long. I didn't really want to make it too long, but
makes sense.
Yeah, this is something that we will and are. I mean, as you've seen, for example, with this old bus situation, we have initiated a process which seems to be unfolding, you know, and certainly with the one in Central Kingston, we've initiated a process there as well. So we've
you didn't speak much in the budget about the war in the Middle East, opposition leader, which will be biting us hard. And since the war has started, gas price in Jamaica has gone up by $19. You spoke earlier of that edge tax that was meant to ensure Jamaica that once a barrel of oil passed $64.50, the insurance would kick in. What is it that the opposition and the Jamaican people are going to do about this rising gas price and the fact that the government told us that, hey, we don't need for edge, everything will be all right?
Well, in my budget presentation, what I said to the Prime Minister was, because he speaks after me, I said, Prime Minister, the people of Jamaica want to hear from you what you are going to be doing to protect the Jamaican people for what is coming and what is already started and what is only going to get worse. You know, he was trying to deflect by raising FinSAC as an issue and so on. Prior to his speech, he had come out with something about FinSAC, you know, which again is another topic in its own. But, you know, I was saying that, you know, that's not what we should be focusing on now, because we have a storm coming our way, an economic storm in the form of supply constraints and price hikes and critical inputs, energy inputs. And people want to hear what he's going to do about it.
And what did he say?
He did zero. He never mentioned it at all. Nothing at all.
No, but some people said his speech was comprehensive.
Yeah, well, you know, the speech was all about a whole load of projects that they've conceptualized, which are going to take years to roll out. And we know, for example, from the one that you are affected by, the Southern Coastal Highway project, how long that has been taking to be finished. Now it don't finish.
But remember, I told the people in Portland that the bypass for Port Antonio was something that this Labour Party took from us. Because that bypass, remember, it was a part of the new road that the Most Honorable Portia Simpson Miller got the money for and was to build from Harbourview into Port Antonio. They stopped it, downgraded the project, and now they're giving us back the bypass like it's something new.
Yeah, well, that's just PR, that spin. But the point really is, going back to your first question on the matter, I did highlight that this is a major risk. The budget is going to be impacted by it. There's going to have to be a supplementary budget once it becomes clear what that impact is. The cost of living is going to go up. It's already going up. We have seen week after week, price of fuel at the pump has been going up. JPS has indicated that they're going to have to increase electricity prices because it's a pass-through. They buy their oil and gas at world market prices, or whatever it is that Petrojam is selling them at for the oil, and Petrojam buys our oil on the world market. So those costs are unavoidable. And so the Jamaican people, the Jamaican consumer is going to be hit left, right, and center by this storm. And the government is slow, in my opinion, off the mark in terms of announcing what measures they intend to put in place to cushion this blow. Barbados, for example, Mia Mottley has already, a couple of weeks now, announced various measures to absorb some of those costs so that the people don't have to face the full brunt of them. We haven't heard anything from our government yet, but they're going to have to address it because the issues are there. We're already in a post-Melissa paradigm where a third of Jamaica's population or thereabouts is still suffering from the impacts of that hurricane. And the whole question of how they're addressing that is a major issue. But suffice it to say right now that people are still suffering. People are not getting the help they need. And there's a tax package being imposed on them, which is going to be
to support critical list.
Sorry about that, opposition.
Yeah, man. There's a tax package being imposed on them, which is going to be further inflationary on costs in Jamaica. And the Middle East crisis, the war, is going to impact electricity. It's going to impact transportation. It's going to impact many other things. Fertilizer for farmers is going to go up because petrochemicals are part of the ingredients that make fertilizer. Many plastic products and packaging, all of that is impacted by the oil and gas prices. So, this is, we're going into a really serious period, and we the government, in its budget presentation, they said virtually nothing about what they're doing to help people recover from Hurricane Melissa. That was on the periphery of the presentations. It was all about all these projects that are going to take years to roll out.
That no money is in the budget for this year.
No, nothing in the budget for this year to roll out those projects. So, to my mind, it was a very unusual situation where the government doesn't address the immediate crisis of Melissa, doesn't address the unfolding crisis of the Middle East, and instead chooses to focus on a series of projects that are going to take years to develop, and that have no immediate impact on the reality we're living now. So
the government said that they have spent $43 billion on the Melissa recovery. Have you seen it?
Not really. I mean, it's spent in a variety of different areas. They're fixing up schools, they're fixing up some other public businesses, and so on. They have, made some grants available.
These pictures, opposition leader, these pictures I'm showing was taken yesterday.
Okay.
This is yesterday.
Wow, look at that.
The school didn't touch it.
No. So clearly there's a hell of a lot more that needs to happen. And this whole roofs program, where the $10 billion has been made available for people who suffered housing damage, it's problematic in how it's being rolled out. People are being told to go to a location in another parish to collect their grants, and they go and they can't get through, and they have to go back home and then come back another day and another day. They're being very frustrated. The logistics of how it's being delivered is really disgraceful.
What about the NARA? Talk to us about the NARA.
Well, they have the Prime Minister finally tabled the NARA bill on Thursday last week when he spoke. And I've had a quick look at it. It's very bare bones. It's from
bare bones?
Yeah.
So that people bare bones, that mean it already, No
From a
flesh doesn't
governance
want the need.
perspective, it doesn't have any clear governance framework that would ensure that these resources are transparently deployed and their fairness in how they're distributed and so on. So, I mean, I haven't finished my analysis of it, but preliminarily, it to me needs further work. But he tabled it nevertheless. What they have said is that these financial resources that the international development partner agencies like the IMF, the World Bank, the IDB have committed, totaling 6.7 billion US, which includes the disaster risk money that was already basically in place.
Right.
So that's part of it. But and there's a 2.4 billion, which is really private sector money, which is not yet in place, but which the partners have said they'll help the government to mobilize.
And if private sector is not taking up this, then that's almost nothing as well.
Yeah, that is not on the table unless they can find private sector investors who, of course, are going to look at each project from a very careful commercial lens to ensure it's feasible, economically and commercially feasible. So we don't know how much of that 2.4 will actually be made available. But then the rest of it, or 3.4 billion, I think it is debt, is new borrowing that is going to apparently flow through NARA to execute these projects that the Prime Minister was announcing in his budget debate. Things like the extension of the North-South Highway, the movement of elements of Black River inland, and fixing up a Black River, a bypass road for Lucy, and various other projects, So that's what apparently NARA is going to be focused on. There was nothing about a comprehensive housing program to rebuild a housing stock that has been damaged by Melissa. I thought that would have been the focus of what NARA would get into as it comes to the wicket, to bat. We didn't hear anything about that. All we heard about was something which was announced last year, which was that NHT would be importing some modular homes, some container homes for distribution, which is, we're glad to see that. But it's a bit of a drop in the bucket relative to the needs.
Opposition leader, if we look at this picture, we're looking at some roofs there, like those roofs were newly put on, right? My issue with these, can these roofs withstand a Category 5 or even a Category 3 hurricane?
The way they did roofs is guaranteed to ensure that there's no resilience in what is being done. First of all,
point.
Because the amounts of money that are being made available are a fraction of the need. So you have a family that's had a house that's essentially destroyed that they need to rebuild. They need help to do that. You give them $500,000, which in today's costs would probably represent something in the region of a 15th to a 20th of the cost of building back a proper shelter. They are going to take that money and make it stretch. They're going to try and do whatever they can to put something over them head that the money can cover and whatever savings they may have. So that means that the elements of construction to ensure resilience to storms and floods are not going to be part of the picture. You're going to have the same traditional or outdated methods of doing things that have been shown to be inadequate to withstand the type of weather events that Jamaica is confronting now on a regular basis. So there's no resilience built into the design of the roofs program. To the contrary, it is just reinforcing the existing habits of construction that we know are not sufficient to withstand climate crisis. So that's what's happened.
3 months' time, we are back in another hurricane season, opposition leader. Yeah. Are you comfortable with where we are now?
No, I'm not comfortable with where we are now because many people are already in a housing crisis and nothing has been done or insufficient effort has been made to address their problems. and we're sliding with the passing of each day and each week into the next hurricane season. Those people haven't been sorted out. And I have not heard anything about building more resilient shelters, learning from the lessons of Melissa, so that some of the situations that our people had to go through after Melissa can be avoided. I can tell you, for example, Petersfield in Westmoreland at the high school, that's one of the major shelters. You know, there were over, I can't remember the number, well, over 100 people were living there at one time. And an NGO was trying to establish a community on government-owned land nearby that was designed to be resilient and designed to give people an opportunity to get their lives back together in terms of the layout and the activities that would take place there. And they have been blocked. They have not been, the government, they have not been facilitated. Yeah, they have not been facilitated in getting that going. And I don't understand why the government wouldn't get behind organizations like this that have good ideas that are going to help people to get back on their feet. And would also, it would be a facility that if there's another hurricane, that would be a really well-designed, suitable place that people could go, right? Because the idea behind it is that it's not permanent housing for people. It's like it's where you transition through until permanent housing is provided to you. But it's a community of hurricane victims who are being transitioned to proper housing. And that could become a proper shelter for the next time around. It's not, it's as far as I am aware, it's on hold. Nothing is happening with it. So I'm not happy with the response of the government to what has taken place. I don't see where the kind of sustainability and resilience-based programs to ensure that next time around we do it better. I'm not seeing any evidence of that.
Do you think Jamaica should now start building purpose-built shelters instead of using our schools? We heard the president of the JTA saying that the government, between the government and the local government minister, they must get the people out of the schools so that the teachers can have full access to their school plant and all of that. You think we need to build fit-for-purpose shelters now?
I do. I think that, you know, there should be perhaps one in every parish, which is sufficient. And you'd have to design it in a way that when it's not needed for that purpose, it can be used for other things. So it is you're maximizing the benefit from that facility. But with a proper thinking through, you could do that. And as I said, this NGO that they brought it to my attention, they had thought through all of that. They were looking at Airbnb as being, you know, in times where people are not in there, the community could use it for Airbnb. It could be
proper thing, never that bill.
Yeah, man. And it had a central courtyard where people could gather. You could have events there. It was well thought through. And
so why would the government not support something like that?
I have no idea. I don't know. You know, you'll find when you deal with government, with anything that's a new idea, the posture is often, you know, one of resistance to it. Or even if they initially think, oh, this is wonderful, when you start to interact with the agencies that would have to carry it forward, you know, you get a lot of static, you get a lot of pushback and so on. I'm not sure the political will to support this wasn't manifest. So, you know,
we couldn't do this interview, opposition leader. And if you're just joining us, everybody, welcome to Portland Spice TV. We're talking to Jamaica's opposition leader, Mark Jefferson Golden, and president of the People's National Party. We couldn't.
I have to wrap up shortly because
that's why I said we couldn't do this interview without talking about the Cuban doctors leaving Jamaica. Talk to us about that. What are your views?
My views are, it's tragic. Jamaica has a 50-year relationship with Cuba. The government of Cuba and the government of Jamaica have a bilateral agreement whereby Cuba provides doctors, nurses, and other medical professionals to Jamaica. It has been very, very helpful to the Jamaican people. They have filled gaps in our health system, and those gaps are gaps where the most vulnerable Jamaicans are the ones who suffer. And so the Cuban doctors have been in the more remote health centers. They have provided eye surgery facilities. to give people who need their cataracts removed or other eye surgeries can get them done free of cost, and so on. It has been a tremendous benefit to the people of Jamaica over the 50 years. The US government under the current administration is very hostile to Cuba. That's a well-known fact. And yes, they have brought pressure on countries like Jamaica, and there are many countries that have benefited or were benefiting from bilateral arrangements with the Cuban government. What I object to was the fact that I don't know what that pressure was, okay? Because I'm not in the meetings where those discussions are taking place.
And you were never contacted for any question, any suggestion?
Zero. They don't really deal with us,
Yeah, but the Prime Minister in his budget presentation asked, what would you have done?
What I would have done, I would have worked out with the U.S. government what exactly their concerns are, and I would have gone to the Cuban government and said, these are the concerns. Some of them may be worth looking at, and see how we could restructure the program. And to the extent that there were some issue, if there was some issue or issues that were irreconcilable, then I would have said to the US, we can't just terminate this program like that. This program is delivering critical services that are needed. We're going to need a period of time to put other measures in place before we can bring this to an end. That was not done. So the government of Jamaica terminated this thing unilaterally. I have spoken, I am aware that the Cubans were still the discussions were protracted, but they had not been brought to a close. And the government of Jamaica decided to just end it and ended the program. And they ended it in circumstances where there's nothing in place to replace those doctors. So people who were relying on it for their eye surgeries, they're not going to get their eyes sorted out. People who relied on the nurses and Cuban doctors and nurses in the facilities that they go to for healthcare, they're going to suffer because those services are no longer available and nothing has been put in place to replace them. So the government has mismanaged the situation, and the Jamaican people are going to suffer as a result of that mismanagement. I'm not saying it was an easy situation to deal with, but I think that the wrong approach was taken. And I see where Mexico has said they're not terminating their arrangement.
Yeah, I saw that.
So maybe that was an option as well. I don't know, because as I said, I'm not party to discussions between the government and the U.S. administration about this, and I don't know what was being said. But there are examples of others who have withstood that pressure, and so
Jamaica was put under a lot of pressure in the 70s when our leader Michael Manley stood with the Cubans. You think Andrew Holness was afraid of the repercussions and what it may cost Jamaican and Jamaican people?
I do. I think Andrew Holness has an opportunistic nature and is not really somebody who stands on principle. His views shift to what is convenient. So I think from his perspective, he would have said, well, this is a PNP program from the 70s coming through.
That should do it.
No, he would have recognized that it was useful, and that's why it was maintained, from government to government since then. But I think he would have been saying, boy, I'm not going to go out on a limb and defend this thing too hard. If we will move on from it. I get that's the impression that I get of what the attitude towards it was. And I think it's unfortunate, because I think it was a very beneficial program for Jamaicans, and it ought to have been dealt with in a much more, I would say, serious way, and to ensure that whatever fallout happened was managed better. And to the extent that the positions being taken were not rational or reasonable, we should have, diplomatically and respectfully pointed that out. Because, for example, the argument that the Cuban government was a recipient of the funds under the program, that's a non-argument, because Jamaican government outsources many things to companies that provide labor, and the workers are not paid by the government, though the government receives the services of those workers. So that model is fully embedded in our economy generally. And even in international matters, for example, when Jamaica contributes soldiers to UN peacekeeping arrangements. The UN pays Jamaica, as I understand it. Their soldiers don't get paid directly. So, you know, that to me was a bit of a red herring that they put forward. And the thing about the passports, as I understand it, that was resolved. So I don't know whether there was really any solid basis for bringing this thing to an end.
Finally, comrade leader, and I'll call you comrade leader this time because this is a political question. Speak to us about your political future.
Yeah, look, I'm here to serve. I was, elected president of the party. We did well in the 2024 local government elections. I believe we won those by any objective test. We got more votes than the Jamaica Labour Party.
And more seats.
More councils.
Yes.
More divisions. We got the major councils, equal number of mayors, but the major ones, KSAMC, St. Catherine, Portmore, etc. And then in the general, we showed significant improvement. So although we didn't win, the party is on a trajectory towards victory. So it took me a while to figure out what I wanted to do after the election. I was obviously very disappointed.
Yes.
And others were as well. But there was no real momentum for people telling me, boy, it's time to step down. To the contrary, everybody was pressuring me to stay. So, I took that on board and I've been reflecting on that. And the reality is that we continue to play an important role in the Jamaican democratic system. Mm-hmm. And we have some good ideas that we think are relevant and need to be adopted. And as long as I am needed or embraced and people want me there, I'm going to make myself available. I'm not holding on to this tenaciously for the sake of my own personal ego or anything. That's not what it's about. Yes. I'm here because the people in the party tell me that, they don't want to see any change at this time. The party has been operating in a cohesive way. We've seen the positive results. They want me to stay, and I'm prepared to stay on because
and nobody has challenged Andrew Wellness twice, so we don't want every time we reach a general election is a new leader we're trying to blood. So I am endorsing you staying and taking us into the next general election.
Well, thank you for your expression of confidence, and that's the plan. And I think we have to figure out why we didn't win last time, and why we came close, but it wasn't close enough. And, some of the answers to that are things that we probably can't even discuss on a program like this because we know what we were up against,
And we have our space where we discuss these things.
That's right.
Comrade leader, opposition leader of Jamaica, Mark Jefferson Golden, let me thank you this morning for taking the time out to be with us, the listeners, the viewers, the subscribers to Portland Spice TV. We wish you all the best, sir. Thank you very much. And if anything you want to say finally to the listeners and viewers.
Well, thank you, first of all, for having me, Colin, on your show. It's always a pleasure. Thank you to the listeners for being there and listening to what we had to say. It was an interesting discussion. And I just say to Jamaicans, times are hard and they're going to get harder. But don't lose hope. Keep the faith. And keep standing up for Jamaica and standing up for what is right, and let us march forward together so that we can build a better nation. And I believe that our time will come. God bless you.
Mark Jefferson Golden, opposition leader of Jamaica, president of the People's National Party. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Blessings. My people, that's the boss. The man who... Hold on the junior man. Where you going, sir? Hold on the man. Eh? Junior.
Yeah, morning.
Welcome. Where you say?
Yeah, that's very bossy interview.
Where you say it was bossy?
Yeah, man.
Thank you.
Turn up. I give a 9.
You give me a 9? Why?
Yeah.
A 9 for me feel like a 10.
We can a little bias, but we give a 9.
Where's my bias? Are you biased?
No, me bias.
You biased.
Yeah, so to be biased with the none.
All right, my boss. All right. Talk to me. What go on now?
Yeah, the problem, what I think about are they sharing of this thing, the roof program.
Yes.
Now, you realize what happened the other day where we get to call you about the couldn't talk too long.
Yeah.
Everybody in Western Jamaica has to come to Montego Bay to collect the liquor cycling. Now, I don't think people understand when somebody has to leave from a place like Balaclava to come to Montego Bay.
But why would that be, though? Why would that be? Why would the government do that? Why would that be?
All right. I believe it's to fight chaos. If you have an organized procedure, you can't steal the money.
Hallelujah.
But if you find chaos,
yes,
you can do what you want to.
Yes.
The other thing, you realize that members of parliament, it is alleged that they are telling persons that them get what them supposed to get already. So what them call them for?
It's the argument me always hear in a Portland, I don't know if it's somewhere else. Me always hear say people in a Portland tell people.
Right. People who are calling about the hurricane something.
Yeah.
Have been told if you never get money already.
Oh, well, yeah. So where did they get that money from?
And what's the election?
Hello, somebody. Tell her. Junior, you know, normal, you know.
In Western Jamaica, you know, it's armored car money in certain areas. You know.
You mean in the election?
Yeah. And if armored car carry money and a monkey money, that, you know.
No, armored car monkey money.
No. So if you get X amount of money already, you can't buy.
The people that must get more money. When they get that money, hurricane never blow yet. Jesus.
But remember now, the government gets over 660 million US dollars.
You mean billion? They don't get, no, hold on, they don't get all right, because as you heard the opposition leader said a while ago, $2.4 billion out of the $6 billion is for private sector investment. So if private sector don't take up that $2.4 billion now account. But immediately after the hurricane, the government had about $116 billion ready to spend. You're breaking up, Junior. It sounds like you're still that Trelawney.
No, remember, the roof program is 10 million. Them, sorry, 10
billion with a B.
Spending.
Yeah.
Right. But I heard on the news that them already spent it.
Oh? Tell
If them already spent it, the money done.
Money done. Junior.
Yeah,
go ahead, continue.
Remember now, if we right have 10 billion to spend and them already tell you say they spend it, where do you think you're going to find the other two? Now you're not feeling pocket.
They must take some, you know.
Of course. So the money done. And you keep looking. Then give gifts $24 million.
Them give GPS, yes, 24 billion.
Yeah. Then GPS 24 billion.
Yes.
And the people get personal hurricane, then give them $10 billion.
100,000 people.
And look what thousands of people get hurt in a hurricane.
It's rubbish, Junior. Total rubbish. But we could talk tomorrow evening, because we are going to be on tomorrow evening where we take all the calls. We're going to be on 5 o'clock tomorrow evening. We're going to do it tomorrow evening again, 5 o'clock, my people. Not in the morning, in the evening tomorrow. Thanks, Junior. We'll talk again. I want to play this clip here one more time.
You know, I promise I'm not being
Hold on,
not
Carla.
being short as I had promised, but
Hold on.
I remember, and I'm not going to tell you the whole of it, but I remember when Winston Churchill made a poem famous. It was actually a poem written by Claude McKay. And it came to my mind many times.
Yes.
You know, when the Prime Minister spoke at the heads of government, I actually commended him on how he approached it. Let me be clear. I thought he had a difficult task. I thought he navigated it well. I thought, no, I did it in an interview. Come, Senator Morgan.
No,
you know me
man
well. CVM. But let me tell you this. Let me tell you this. If you will just give me Claude McKay's poem, Senator Thompson. I don't know if you like poetry. I do. It says, if we must die, let it not be like hogs, hunted and penned in an inglorious spot, while round us bark the mad and hungry dogs, making their mock of our cursed lot. If we must die, oh, let us nobly die, so that our precious blood will not be spent in vain. So even the monsters we defy shall be constrained to honor us, though dead. There is a place for principle, and people actually respect you when you demonstrate principle and integrity. When you are compliant and submissive and subservient, trust me, they will only take more advantage of you, because that is the psychology of human behavior. If it pleases.
Thank you, Donna. We have a call on the line. Caller, good evening. Welcome to Portland Spice.
Good morning, Mr. Colin. I know evening yet, morning.
I know evening yet. So we are talking about tomorrow evening. We're not going to do the program tomorrow morning. We're going to come on tomorrow evening. So maybe I that upon my mind. Go ahead.
I understand.
Yes.
Listening to Mr. Marky J, our party leader. First of all, good up to you.
Thank you.
Good up, Colin. Thank you for this interview this morning. It made my day.
Okay.
No,
thank
when
you.
Come on to our party leader, you saw the man level-headed, and the man read nothing, the man talk from him head,
Yes.
I saw we need, bright, the man bright,
General.
I know the thing. No, when it come on to this proposal from the opposition leader, what more could Jamaica want, Mr. Colin? 100 this, Eh? 100 this. What more? The economy would be growing.
Of course, but that was the focus of the PNP, to grow the economy, because that's what the GLP has not been doing. When you talk about everything, it takes cash to care. And the GLP have failed to grow the economy.
Me want the laborers, them take the seal, Me want them take the seal what them do to them own life, No, when it come on, they can skip over here, so no. When it come on to the bargaining with the Cubans,
yes.
The bargaining never go on, You hear Marcus G say, no, them not put him in a it,
Yeah, but and then the Prime Minister coming at the Parliament. Then the Prime Minister coming at the Parliament with disingenuous self. What would the PNP do? When the discussion are going, you should have called the PNP. I say, here is a situation. Do you have any suggestion?
Right.
But you see, when they talk about all hands on deck, I just feed them on the one on the deck. On the deck of money.
Bunch of idiots.
Just feed them on them one on the deck of money.
To have a better life.
No. None at all.
And the people keep falling behind them and going down and down and down, and no prosperity, no changing of them life over the period of time they're in governance.
Well, the
Come
jail.
on, people don't want more than this Saturday morning. Look on the throne, no own prosperity.
But them,
better life.
prosperity is happening, Carla. Prosperity is happening. But you hear Rosie talk about how Donovan a prosper. So
no, because all right, I'm not saying the word.
Prosperity is happening. Donovan is prospering. Rosie told us about it.
Taking the taxpayers' money and using it at their will for their own good. They must go to jail, you know. They must go to jail. They must not get away, you know. This situation bypassing Jamaica. Well, no, you know, the justice system gone and it done. And they must build them credibility that people must trust them.
Yes.
Lastly, Colin, Feval, I shall criticize the opposition budget proposal, and I go say we're not going back there. Feval, you're going to get a beat me, you see?
No, we're not going.
Do to Jamaica people. Oh, you mean when I go back there when them laborers make Jamaica gone back to IMF? Talk about that, Feval. Talk about not going back. Talk about that. Lady, you're going to get a whooping from that for you to Jamaica people. Watch it. I warn you. Mr. Khalil, the monkey, the pan, the limb, that's an Andrew Oldness. So I'm going to listen to you say, the monkey, the pan, the limb, and the monkey friend him drop off and the lion yamming.
Tala, later. Tomorrow.
So that's why I'm not no intervention with Marky E, because they know some Marky G have the answer, and them go, yeah, and them go, you know, go through, you know, for talk, and the bargaining go on, and something better would have happened for Jamaica.
Yeah, but you hear what Mark said? You hear what the opposition leader said that? Yes. If US do whatever, but give me some time so that I can put something in place. Right. Oh, I go and send home 300 medical workers with nobody to replace them, and just send them and left that void. Just left the void like that. Oh, you do that?
Yeah, just close it, sir.
No.
I didn't say my Prime Minister. What a man head now have nothing in there. Come in. You see the light bill there, they raise the 150 when them get to JPS.
Yeah.
And raise the 7%. Come in. They have to roll back, you know, because see they know with what happening at the Gulf and with oil crisis. Them raise it again. Me feel say if an anti-honest or Davos have some shares into JPS, something wrong.
Look here.
Something is going on. How is Jamaica people going to manage to increase one behind the other?
But caller.
The 7%. Take back the 150 million when them did JPS.
Caller.
Let this new one when them come with lastly.
Hello.
It cannot work on it.
All right.
People stand up, no man.
All right, caller. All right, caller, you're not listening to me, so all right, caller, you're not listening to me, so we're gone. All right. Tomorrow evening. All
right.
Tomorrow evening, 5 o'clock, we're gonna be on tomorrow evening, and we're taking all the calls, but we're taking a few calls this morning, so we're not giving about it so much time. 876-804-7072. That's 1-876. What go on, my general?
Yes, Stalin. Yes, sir. How you doing?
My dear man, where you say?
Well, I'm glad we get to catch a part of the show with the one Marky G, because I'm very impressed with the man character, you know.
Yes,
he's
man.
an observant person, you know.
Yes.
You understand?
Calm and cool.
I notice a key quality about the leader of the People's National Party.
What is that?
It's when it comes down to constructive criticism.
Yes.
He takes it extremely well.
Did I criticize the opposition leader?
No, it's the question. Because remember, the question out there is about the approach of the opposition. You know?
Yes.
In terms of how them approach things.
Yes.
In going at the Jamaica Labour Party.
Yes.
And it's quite clear that the man is true to his personality.
Yeah.
You understand and how he go about things. But at the same time, you know, he can say, well, maybe you were right about this and probably need to look at it another way. Because remember him saying, on September 3rd, the people were supposed to let them know where they stand.
Yes.
Do they stand for corruption or do they want the country to clean up?
Yeah.
And I've been saying that the whole time. The persons that took money and did not vote, the persons that will never vote because they don't believe in another party, the persons that will vote for JLP, although we don't see them discuss them. At the end of the day, it boils down to the people. You understand?
Yes.
The people ultimately made a decision to allow the government to take this election. So what you want the opposition to do? When the opposition goes to know and put out these information about the drill and all these things, the onus is on us, the people, to rise up and say, no, but we demand that this person come out of office. We demand that this person resign. We demand that there's an investigation. Our voice is the strongest. The People's National Party, as an opposition, is supposed to be the catalyst for us to act. You feel me? I deal with
Yes,
so we stand with the opposition upon that. I mean, understand that some people are saying, but you have to understand, say, that is not the personality. What they want out of Mark Golding is that's not Mark Golding. So you just have to accept the man for who he is in terms of his approach.
But the PNP need to have somebody in the raga still. You can't have you can't have everybody with this calm and collective personality. You need somebody where we raga them up. Because when the Prime Minister in a presentation say you talk about corruption, I wanted to hear from across the floor. Tell us about your statutory filing.
But you know, I believe there's a couple of people in the party that is like that, and this Dr. Angela Brownberg. If you notice her in our parliament, always I go after them.
Yeah.
You understand? A man like Lambert Brown. You have a couple of them, man, but you know, when you have a team and you have a leader with the team respect,
yes.
Oftentimes the team take on the leader personally.
Yeah, man, but the leader have to give somebody. No, the leader have to give different responsibility. You know? The leader have to say to somebody, say, you see, you have the permission for raga. You in charge of the standing order. So you, anytime the speaker of the house talk about standing order, you supposed to know whether she right or if she wrong. You have a next man where you have to give people rule and function, man. So you have to have a raga man. If you check back in time and watch them old movie there and read them book there from back in time, the kingdom always have all a midget around them, you know. Yeah. Cause you need every side, you know, brother. You have all a midget, a fool man, a total clown. And sometimes you have to rock on him and say, what you think about this? Yeah, man, you have to have everybody in the team, man. Everybody needed.
True.
But brother, go on do your work. May I watch your work? May I watch your work? Go on do your work, brother. Big up yourself. Bowl up on YouTube. Where your YouTube channel name? Tell the people them so them can check you out from time to time.
Yeah, man, bowl of VNR 2.0, man.
All right, my brother. Big up yourself. One love. Yeah, man.
Yeah, man, respect.
876-804-7072. We're taking your calls. Yeah, man. We had Mark Golding this morning. If you missed it, it is still on YouTube. Here is Conrad O'Brien. Morning, Obi.
Hi, Colin. How are you doing? Morning. How are you doing?
We're there upon the work, brother. We're there upon the work. This is not a job. This is our work given to us by the Almighty. Wagwan.
Absolutely, me there. Yeah, man. Respect due to you and the listeners and viewers.
Yes.
And let me say, good morning to opposition leader and PNP President Mark Jefferson Golding, Marky G, as I love him.
Yes.
Colin, excellent interview.
Thank you.
You know, I scored it highly, and it was quite comprehensive. I think you touched a lot of things. The final question that you ended with, you know, the political aspect, and indeed the one before, which was the Cuban issue.
Yes.
I think the opposition leader dealt with it quite comprehensively.
Yes.
And certainly it shows the weakness of the wholeness of Mr. Holness himself, Prime Minister Holness himself, and indeed his administration.
Yes.
And, you know, opposition leader Mark Golding pointed out something very, very important, that the way the arrangement was basically negotiated or handled, certainly it was not handled in the best interest of the Jamaican people, because at the end of the day, even if the relationship had to be severed, there should be something put in place to basically mitigate against what we are seeing now within the various hospital and health health centers across Jamaica. You know, you don't deal with your people that way. And certainly, you know, Mark Golden showed once again that he is certainly up on the curve much more than Andrew Wallace. His spokesperson and foreign affairs, Donald Scott Mutley, who did a brilliant job in the Senate.
Oh yeah, I love it. Love it. I love it.
Absolutely. And you know, Donna hit the ball out of the park when she said, listen, if you go into a negotiation and you had something there and you come out with nothing,
you lost. Yes. You fall down. You're going with something and come out with nothing. Damn, dollar. You lost every dollar.
Absolutely, Colin.
No, Obi, hear this. Imagine I send you to market with a truckload of oranges and you come back without the truck, not even the truck, you know, come back with not $1.
Not even the truck, not $1. But I want to say this quickly, Colin.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, granted, you do the work, and we all have different style and whatever. Certainly, I would have gone there. There is a particular situation that is brewing in Western Portland that could very well trigger a by-election.
No man, I did ask him about that, you know.
You did?
Yeah, man, we touch on it, man. I did ask him about that.
Okay, so what is there? How is the PNP? Is the PNP ready in itself?
Him said there is not officially. Him said not officially. Hear the noise on the ground, and the mayor said Big Rob want go over there, and you know. But him said not officially yet.
You know, Colin, well, we know that this is how things happen, and the PNP cannot afford to be caught napping.
Not at all.
The PNP should be out on the ground.
Well, what I can tell you, though, you know, Obi, what I can tell you about West Portland, Doreen Campbell has not left the ground. She ran in the last election, and she has not left Western Portland. So what I can tell you is that if they are ready tomorrow, there's a candidate in Western Portland who is a known quantity, and you know. Once we don't get the skullduggery, and I believe that we have learned enough that we can go around this thing. We learned enough from the 2019 by-election. We saw what the labor rights did. We learned enough from the 2024 local government election, and that's why we were able to take back East Portland in the 2025 election. So we have experience out there.
Absolutely. Kylie, let me just say in closing, listen. And I'm saying this, I'm speaking to Western Portland people at this time. Please, those of you few who may have your differences, dash away. Rally behind Doreen Campbell. Rally behind the People's National Party. You have an MP there. For how long Mr. Vaz is there, Colin?
Boy, 18 years, 19 years, yeah. With nothing to show.
What have you gotten there? That's where the darn foolishness. Rally behind the hard-working Doreen Campbell and let all of you put hands and heart together and win this one. It is important. It can be won. The numbers are there, Colin. You know it better than I do. And certainly as you have grown, so there is a candidate in place, and I believe that the PNP, through Mark Golden as its leader, need to basically send the signal, and the work must begin in earnest now. You don't move to put a new candidate in place to replace a sitting member of parliament if a by-election is not in the offering. PNP, please don't allow yourself to be caught napping on this one. Thank you, Colin.
Blessings, my brother. 1-876-804-7072. And remember, we're going to be on tomorrow evening. Not in the morning. We're going to be on tomorrow evening at 5 p.m. sharp. So remember to check us out for Talk Jamaica. So tomorrow evening when we come on, we give everybody a chance. We're not bringing on any guests. We're just opening the phone lines and give you all a chance to speak. Go ahead, caller.
Good morning, Colin. Brilliant. My spice. My Portland spice.
Sure.
Ring the bell.
Tell her.
Ring the bell.
Not careful at the belly, no blow the trumpet. Let's do the trumpet.
Well, all right.
I don't want nobody mistaken. My surname, my first name is Bell, but I don't ring on that side. Not ringing over there.
Good. Make sure you're clear which side you're on. Good, Colin.
This morning the producer and I were having a discussion, and I was saying we saw Craig Oates in a video. That's how the discussion started. And I'm saying, I can't believe Craig Oates really turned Labourite. So I was saying to her, me no matter what PNP do me. I'm not going to tell nobody say me will always be PNP, but me can never be a Labourite. Before me become a Labourite, me start my own party. Not going over there.
Not going over there.
No.
Not cross over there.
Not going over there. No.
No.
Because I know Craig Oates suffer similar fate to mine. I don't know his full situation, but he was in the seat and he was removed and the seat win. I was in the seat, I was removed, the seat win. But in spite of all of that, is one thing we can tell nephew and anybody. God would have to come down, take me up, and put me over GLP side. I mean, have a feeling and miggle, feel the whole feeling side, and he'd have to turn water and a wine, show me, and more things before me accept it. So,
something.
Before, hold on, one more thing. Before we just leave the politics and go in a little corner and chill. But me not on Labourite, no.
So you're saying no. You will be in your small corner and they be in theirs, right? Because you saying Jesus bids you shine with a pure, clear light. And you're that little lighted candle burning in the night.
Hallelujah.
In this world of darkness, so you must shine. So you stay in this corner and they stay enough for them. That's it, Colin.
Yes, sir. Not going over there. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly.
Yes, you did a brilliant interview.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Excellent. And you know what I'm going to touch on? Oh, let the dogs out. Who let Donna Scott Motley, Mike Harris China, my comrade, my sister, when she quoted Claude McKay, did you see that man on the JLP side?
Yeah, man, doctor.
I'm telling you,
it touched him, it reached him, you see him shake him head. Yes, man.
So, I see you play it, I think, 2 to 3 times today.
Yes, man. Because I don't know if have you ever heard me quote that? Have you ever heard me? Yeah, man, I've always been quoting that, man. If we are to die, let us die like men and not like hogs, man. Yeah, man.
That is the military man in you, isn't it?
Yeah, man, with the backside.
The defender.
Yeah, just bow to anything. And I like what you said at the end. Principle of a place. Have a place. God Almighty,
and that is where you get your respect.
Yes, man. If you bow to everything, then you're going to have to lay down on the ground and then walk by you, because the more you bow is the more they will pile on you. That's basically what she's saying.
But even that's what she's saying. Even your enemies will, even though you die, your enemies will respect you. At least he will give you a grave with a headstone.
Yes, man. Yeah, man.
Brilliant this morning. I called to just commend you, commend my comrades. I feel just like that comrade Red call prior. I feel very good this morning. This is what we are about.
All right, caller. Thank you very much. Tomorrow evening at 5 o'clock, we're going to be on.
Bye.
Blessings. 1-876-804-7072. Obi, where you say?
Is nobody not up there? That's open? That's up?
Open. 1-876-804-7072. Talk Jamaica will be on tomorrow evening at 5 p.m. sharp. We're not coming on in the morning tomorrow morning, but we are going to be on tomorrow evening. Obi, where you say?
Hey, we here say Papa wanted, but I don't realize. I'm actually here just heading up into the gym, as you can see.
Yeah.
Gloves in hand, and so I'm going. you know we deal with the mind, body, and soul, Colin.
Of course. So do you think my brother get fit and stay fit?
So we're rushing up, and the ladies, look at my chest. I love.
Show them your chest. Go on. Hey boy, where you say?
Morning, brother Colin. How you doing?
Talk to me.
You know, I have a psalm this morning for the labor, right?
Yes.
But truly, but as for me, Psalm 73, verse 2. But as for me, my feet were almost gone. My steps had well nigh slipped. For I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked.
Read that again. Read that again.
But as for me, Psalm 73, 2 and 3. But
yes.
As for me, my feet were almost gone. My steps had well nigh slipped. For I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked.
What a psalm.
No.
What a psalm.
No.
Hold on, boy, because that psalm we have to dedicate it to the laborites in West Portland. Who for years like to tell people how much money the MP have while they live in squalor and suffer like dog.
You know, you're a prophet. That is exactly what I'm coming on to speak. And that is why I gave that song. You're an old preacher like me, no?
Talk. No, I will be an evangelist one day. I will be an evangelist. Yeah, man.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, man. No, you know, I look at first of all, we commit the party leader for his presentation. Let me tell you something. There's one thing about Mark Jefferson Bowling that any of us.
Head boy? Head boy, where you there? Head boy, you gone?
No, man, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, now we're hearing you loud and clear.
Oh, I don't know what happened. Maybe it was Pegasus, not the Hilton. No, you know, I am saying there's one thing about the comedy. Whether you like him or you don't like him or you like him, you have to give him credit. He's always directing his responses and he's always somebody who's a cerebral thinker. Yeah, you can see the man spend a lot of time in thinking about solution.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I must commend you for the interview as well. And
Thank
I
you.
just recommend leader your position in relation to Cuba. I must commend you for still maintaining principle because many of us sell out.
Yeah.
Many persons have sold out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, West Portland. I think Conrad and I have a different view, but I would not necessarily say all of that view here so as not to offend anyone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
However, I believe that West Portland can win, and I believe West Portland should rally behind whichever candidate the party offers them to rally behind. I tell you why I say so.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
For over 20 years, because when I say 19, but it's 20.
Yeah.
20 coming end of the year, September 3rd. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For over 20 years, Mr. Vance has been the member of parliament for that constituency.
Yeah.
Mr. Vance's wealth has increased during that time.
Hence the psalm. It's not psalms.
Exactly. I'm preaching now, man.
Hallelujah.
No, Mr. Vance's wealth has increased. But the people of West Portland have found themselves since Darrell come to West Portland people have begged more than they ever begged before. Am I lying, Colin?
No, you're not. You're not
West
lying.
Portland was a place where in the hills, the Buff Bay Valley going back up into the Blue Mountains, were these.
Head boy, you gone again? Head boy? Hello?
I am hearing you now, Colin. I don't know what's happening.
Yep. Yeah, go ahead now. We're hearing you again.
Right, I'm saying West Portland people used to send them people to school without having to take a loan through coffee.
Yes.
Through all of the other industries they used to use.
Yes.
So all of a sudden, this man who is supposed to be prosperous has made the constituency of West Portland much poorer.
Yes.
Show me one housing development that Darrell Vaz has brought from the NHTC since he's been member of parliament. Name one. Show me one school that the Vaz or the JLP, let's say the JLP, has brought into West Portland. One development.
One school was built One school was built since he became member of parliament, but he was not the person who initiated. He never find the funds. The funds was there. There was just a tussle between two communities on where to build the school, and him just come in and say, build it here, so. And it was built.
Okay.
So him
Right, so-
not give him no credit for build it. He never really built it. He helped to make a decision on where to build it.
So that was in place, and he presided over it. So
yeah.
But the next thing, Colin, when you look at this constituency, when you look at coffee, and you know me passionate about coffee. When you look at coffee and the price of coffee and the international market, and this man has not even done anything with him. A massive wealth to him have to even put one tractor up in some of the dirt track them with the coffee farmer.
Hey,
push out the big stone out the road.
Me tell you something. Me tell you something. Before, when Jigs Ennis was member of parliament for West Portland.
Yes. Good comrade.
Me go one dance up at one place named Claverty Cottage. Now me here say you can't drive go up there. I went to Claverty Cottage at a dance. We play a song named Mafia 5. The dance was Friday night. And when the dance done Friday night, the people then decide, then time they will never have a vehicle for sound. So the vehicle never come back. The dance ram again Saturday night and the bar sell off. The man go back down at Cheps so we get liquor. And we keep the dance again Sunday night and the dance sell off. And the man go back and get liquor. And we keep the dance Monday night and the dance sell off. And Tuesday van come back for it. Every night the dance sell off because people have money. What me say?
And that is what I know as a boy.
The road was good. A Sambel Land Rover carry we up there. Good road.
Yes.
The uncle
and
thing.
Water and
hey, let me tell you something.
Water issues were not so prevalent. When I asked the question, it seems like these people are more interested in the MP having money.
Yes.
Than them having money.
Hey, I give you a joke. I give you a next joke, head boy. Boy, do you have other things what me doing in life here? After the 2019 by-election, the same night, we had an earthquake, We had an earthquake the same night. We felt an earthquake in Portland. You know where the labor right there say? A Darrell Vaz wallet drop and shaky place.
Yeah.
That's where labor right them say. And I keep saying to them, show me one champion that Darrell has built in not even West Portland alone, because I say, man, Mr. Portland. Show me one champion when built in a Portland. Show me a man, not two men. Show me a man that you can say, yeah, the man there increase in wealth since this man become member of parliament. You talk.
I can show you two. But one is dead and one is in prison. I'm going to leave you.
Later. Thank you, head boy. I'm taking one more call before I come out because we're coming about 5 o'clock tomorrow evening for Talk Jamaica. I want to thank all listeners and viewers. If you have not yet subscribed to this channel, Portland Spice TV, please subscribe, like the channel, share up the channel, tell everybody about it, because this is where we talk about governance. Yeah? Governance. And we don't spread rumor around here. We don't tell lies around here. Me hear say one man say, let me hear say, cease and desist. And when the court, where the something name? Where the something name? When the court put on an order, an injunction, me hear say the man says cease and insist. Cease and desist and injunction are the same thing. Rubbish. Lawyers ask you to cease and desist when the court put on an injunction. That have legal authority. Order. If you break that, you have a problem. Christian, how long more want to talk to you about Port Antonio? What go on, my brother?
Good afternoon and good morning, everybody. Colin, as you know, I'm investing in your parish.
And I believe you are investing in Portland because of Portland Spice TV and the things that I have been saying about Portland. And I want to thank you and welcome you.
You're partially responsible.
Yes.
But Colin, I tell you something. It's a beautiful parish.
Yes.
And I don't know. I'm investing in one of the more expensive parts of the parish.
Not tell them
And I
where.
feel
Don't tell them
I
where.
don't have water. I don't have water, Colin.
Yeah.
And how is it that you can have a parish that is literally drowning in water?
Yes.
And I have to be investing in tanks and all kind of things because you can't get running water in your pipe if you don't have these.
Chris, I'll tell you something. I'll tell you something. The house I live in now was the second to last house that I have built. And I built a 5,000. I have 5,000 gallons of water underneath my house. And I have nearly 3,000 gallons on top. Because with all the water in Portland, brother, we have not yet sorted out the distribution. So there's a problem with water.
That was crazy. But, you know, also, Colin, I was talking to a lady, and I drove up to the Port Antonio, to the town, and the town needs to get cleaned up, Colin. There's no doubt about it. The town is in bad condition. It's dirty, it's shambolic, there's all kind of, it's disorganized. And I was asking her about the market.
Yeah.
I said, how the market look like that? She said, there was a fire there.
Yes.
I said, how long ago? She said, 2 years ago. I said, then why isn't the market rebuilt properly?
I think it's more than 2 years. I think it's more than 2 years. Little, but maybe about 3, but not much more. Maybe about 3. Yeah.
Colin, a market structure is not a superstructure, you know. It's basically an outer thing with a roof on it.
Yeah.
Basically, it's not a sophisticated structure to rebuild. After 2 years, if you as a mayor of a town can't rebuild like a simple structure like that, what is the purpose?
Let me tell you, the MP then said it was the quickest market that was to be rebuilt. She collected a whole heap of money. I think one at the time years to say 100 million she get for so far in a donation. And she give the people them some money, but we're still wondering where the rest of that money is. I heard the MP, Comrade Isaac Buchanan, ask about it in the Standing Finance Committee. Desmond McKenzie gave some half and half response. So we're seeing what is going to happen. But I can tell you, Chris, Port Antonio needs management. It has lacked management for a very, very long time. The municipal corporation, the directors are a set of do nothing, collecting taxpayers' money for doing nothing. And the people of Portland needs to understand that leadership matters. And if you elect people,
that won't happen, Colin, unless the people themselves demand accountability. Because this lady was just casually telling me that the market has been, basically it was at a fire 3 years ago, and giving me a reason. I said that is 6 months too long to rebuild it.
Yeah, man.
That's a simple structure.
Yeah, man.
And listen, Colin, you have people like me. I'm not saying I'm in a great thing, but I want to go shop in a structure that is clean.
Yes, man.
I don't want to live a first world situation. I'm coming to a situation where I'm dealing with squalor.
Chris,
I want to spend my money with the people.
Where I'm at now, yeah? And I don't want to tell the people where I'm at because you know where I'm at.
No.
Where I am at now, I take pleasure in going to the fish market. I take pleasure in going to the market because it is clean. It smells all right, you know, and boy, may I tell you.
Colin, I have a house in Barbados, and I'm sure you're familiar with Barbados.
Yes.
Hallmark of Barbados is it clean?
Yes. Speak and span. Yes.
Yeah, when you go into the market in Barbados, they're clean. When you go to the fish market, they're clean and modern. Not just clean, they're modern with refrigeration and all of this stuff.
Hey, you are sitting. My God. Chris, how can you have leaders who don't travel? Who not gonna go see nothing else? What?
I don't care.
What kind of rubbish
I think part of it is not, Colin. They don't care about the average Jamaican.
No.
They don't care about the average because they set the bar so low that they don't care about the man in Portland. They just think him stupid. Or what does he have to aspire to or want?
Oh boy.
You know? So when Darrell wants to shop, him going to Kingston and him have him chauffeur go shop and bring back him stuff to him house in Portland. Him not going into the market.
No.
Him not going to mingle with the average local people in the market. But the people have to know that their responsibility is to hold Darrell Valls accountable and to hold the mayor of Port Antonio accountable. They are paying the taxes, they're not doing them any favor. Build back the damn market in a timely manner. That is an engine for growth, by the way.
Yes, it is.
Economic.
And I don't know if you realize that in Port Antonio now, you can't walk on the sidewalk because the people have to be selling on the sidewalk.
I know, that's why I was just there recent, and I was back to the town. I was shaking my head about how the town looked.
The leadership is lacking in the town of Port Antonio, and I'm calling on the people of Portland. When you get a chance to choose again, choose leaders with vision, leaders with the ability to lead. It can't just be about voting for party. Worse, when it comes down to the local government election, these things affect you directly. See the people in the Rio Grande Valley now, every minute I get message, every day them a call. Because you know what they did, Chris? They voted for a child. Now the Bible says a child shall lead the way, you know. But not a child where you never hear nothing from when you show no vision. Somebody who's still living at them parents' house. Yeah? Never have a key for themselves yet. Never care about politics. They have never heard or spoken about her vision for the Rio Grande Valley. And labor rights go vote for her. And now them a call me, boy, Shaka, we make a mistake. Boy, no boy me. Because they voted for money. Chris,
money, that's it.
The amount of money that the GLP spent against me in the local government election, they never spend that in the general election. May I tell you that?
I believe that. I believe that. But accountability is the buzzword. We have to make the people know that they have the power, and their power is to hold the politician that they vote for accountable. And I don't care which party, by the way, across the board.
Across
if
the
you
board.
Put somebody in there, they're supposed to do the work.
Yes, sir. But time.
All right, my friend.
Time, brother. One love, and thanks for coming to Portland. And just a pity that I have not been there yet since you have been there, but I will be there in the right time. In the right time, we will link up. Blessings, Chris.
All right.
My viewers and my listeners, my subscribers, if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please subscribe, like, and share. Portland Spice TV is the place. Become a Portland Spice ambassador. By becoming an ambassador, you basically invite people to the platform to share, to subscribe, and to like as we give the information that the country needs. The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help us God. We don't claim balance. We claim truth. We want to thank the leader of opposition, Mark Jefferson Golden, for spending the time with us this morning. Don't worry, Ralston will be on soon. We might even invite Ralston tomorrow evening, the fact that you never get to hear him this day, but we'll see how that works. But definitely Monday evening, Ralston will be on to talk to you about the economy. And you see the people over here are understanding the economy more. You hear what the opposition leader say? The economy is technical. A lot of people don't understand it. And that's why you have a lot of fools out there saying the government is doing well, because they are not realizing that they have a pretty house, but in the house not in the empty. And that's what the government is trying to show them. We need to understand the economy, learn more. This is the place, Portland Spice TV at YouTube. Please subscribe, like, and share. Once again, thanks to the opposition leader. Thanks to you, the listeners and viewers, for being here this morning. Everybody in the chat room, bless upon yourself. Miss Sissate active. I've been reading some of the comments. Thanks, everybody. Once again, before we leave, we're going to give you Donna Scott Matley. But as we always say, may the Lord continue to bless and keep you all. Make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up his light and give you his peace. Until we meet tomorrow evening at 5 o'clock for Talk Jamaica. This has been the Colin Bell Show. Donna Scott Matley, take us out. Hold on, Donna. Hold on. Go in there now, Donna.
You know, I promise I'm not being short as I had promised, but I remember, and I'm not going to tell you the whole of it, but I remember when Winston Churchill made a poem famous. It was actually a poem written by Claude McKay. And it came to my mind many times. You know, when the Prime Minister spoke at the heads of government, I actually commended him on how he approached it. Let me be clear. I thought he had a difficult task. I thought he navigated it well. I thought, no, I did it in an interview. Come, Senator Morgan, you know me.
You don't need to explain all that.
CVM. But let me tell you this.
Hello?
Let me tell you this. If you will just give me Claude McKay's poem, Senator Thompson. I don't know if you like poetry. I do. It says, if we must die, let it not be like hogs, hunted and penned in an inglorious spot, while round us bark the mad and hungry dogs, making their mock of our cursed lot. If we must die, oh, let us nobly die, so that our precious blood will not be spent in vain. So even the monsters we defy shall be constrained to honor us, though dead. There is a place for principle, and people actually respect you when you demonstrate principle and integrity. When you are compliant and submissive and subservient, trust me, they will only take more advantage of you, because that is the psychology of human behavior. If it pleases you.
Thank you, Auntie Donna. Thanks, listeners. Thanks, viewers. Join me tomorrow evening at 5 o'clock for the Colin Bell Show. 5 o'clock for Talk Jamaica, where we open the phone lines and give you all a chance to speak. One love, my people. Blessings.